I drew 100 heads. And yeah, I know what you're probably thinking. That's a lot. Portraits have always been a love of mine, but facial expressions, not so much. Those have been my weakness. So I took on this challenge to better understand the human head and the wide range of emotions that bring it all to life. Here is my 100 heads challenge with all the results, thoughts, and spiritual discoveries I had. Who knows, you might be inspired to try out the challenge yourself. Before we begin, I'd like to give you a better understanding of my skills, so here are some illustrations I did before the challenge. Not bad, but not great either. That's exactly why we're here today. So let's start. When it comes to facial expressions, I've always felt like I didn't portray them as accurately as I wanted to in my artwork. As you saw in my earlier illustrations, my faces were, they were okay. But deep down, I know I want more from my drawings. I want emotion. I want life. I want people to feel something when they look at my art. And at the start of this challenge, I wasn't really taking several things into consideration, like pen pressure, line strokes, or even line thickness. For example, I made my brush way too thick when starting the first couple of heads I drew. And I know looking back now, those first few heads, they looked pretty rough. And honestly, they were, but I really hope and pray you trust the process because the ending is worth the wait. But let's move forward. After the first few heads, I started realizing my mistakes. And instead of getting discouraged, I adjusted and moved forward. And then suddenly, I started creating portraits that I was actually proud of. That moment when something finally clicks, it was just such a powerful motivator for me. It pushed me forward to keep going. One of my biggest goals during this challenge was learning how to truly read references, not just at a glance, but read them like a book. I wanted to understand what emotion the person was expressing. Were they excited? Were they happy? Were they sad? Scared? And then I wanted to translate that emotion into my drawings. One major thing I noticed was how stiff my lines were. And when your lines are stiff, your characters feel stiff. They feel less alive. So my best step forward was honestly more mental than technical. And I had to loosen up my wrist and stop chasing the perfect line. So instead, I did my best to achieve a clear expression on each character I was planning on drawing. And over time, as I studied references more intentionally, I fell into this rhythm. See the rhythm? I fell into this rhythm and I started recognizing where smile lines naturally sat, where wrinkles formed and how cheeks lifted, how eyes compressed during genuine smiles. It honestly felt like puzzle pieces just clicking together. It felt really good. And slowly, faces became more and more expressive, more lifelike, and more believable over time. To push expressiveness even further, I chose to shade my portraits, but I intentionally kept this entire challenge in black and white. I wanted simplicity. I wanted focus. I completed this challenge using a simple Procreate setup, mainly the Naobe pencil, a round brush, and I even used the same round brush as my smudge brush. I also used the lasso tool very frequently. All this was done on my iPad Air inside Procreate. And at first, the progress felt very slow. But it was still progress, and honestly, slow progress is still progress. Even early on, I could see things changing. My expressions started popping more, my drawings started actually resembling the people in the actual references, and that's when I decided to really focus on one specific skill: value. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the term value simply means how light or dark something is. It's one of the 7 elements of art, and it's absolutely foundational, especially if you want to paint or render something realistically. As tempting as it was to jump straight into color, I realized I need to strengthen this foundation first. Learning about value has been truly life-changing to my art journey. And since finishing this challenge, I've actually started working in black and white layers before adding color, and this has made a huge difference for my artwork. Before this, I'll be honest, I really didn't respect value, and I honestly didn't care about it all that much. And I think it's because I didn't understand the power within value. But value is what creates depth. within a painting. It helps create form within shapes, and it helps create realism when painting a person. Color is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but value is the foundation and structure of all paintings. Another reason I focused on this approach was because of an artist here on YouTube named Broken Draw. And if you have time, I highly recommend checking out his channel. He has a fantastic video specifically about understanding value. So I committed to black and white, and doing that helped me understand lighting, shading, and depth in ways I hadn't before. And if I can encourage you with anything here, it's to study value. It's an underrated skill I honestly wish I had taken more seriously a lot sooner. So observe where light hits, observe where shadows fall, and don't stress about color right away. Simplicity is key, right? As I kept going, I started noticing a shift in my style. Since I was referencing real people, my art naturally started to become more realistic. And honestly, that was a little weird for me, but it was so cool at the same time. I was seeing changes within my art that I'd never seen before. I don't think I found my final art style yet, and I'm okay with that. I'm constantly experimenting, trying different brushes, doing different color approaches, trying different layer methods, and I've really started enjoying the experimentation process instead of feeling pressured to arrive somewhere. So yeah, I'm inspired by artists all over the world, and honestly, I couldn't even name all of them. A lot of artists I found are online whose work has stopped me in my internet rabbit hole treks. Here on YouTube, I've come across Pickett and Kasem, and there are many more, but here are just a few who have inspired me with their work on YouTube. I love their styles and their content, but both of these artists also stream on Twitch, and I also stream on Twitch with my husband, and you guys should check it out. I would love to chat with you over there on Twitch and art around. Wink, wink. Do you get it? Art around. As for Instagram artists, there are way too many to count over there. It's like the hub for artists. But I love my Christian artists of Instagram, so please consider checking out Alia Arts and A Rose in Christ. And another one you guys should check out that I highly recommend is Ramon90. But I just want to say that I'm grateful for all the artists and creators who have inspired me along the way. And as for me, in my previous years, my art has leaned much more toward anime and stylized work, and I love this style, all these styles, and I always will, but I had never really sat down and studied like real human faces like I did during this challenge. So one of the coolest and most unexpected parts of this entire experience was seeing humans and their uniqueness and individuality up close. And as silly as this may or may not sound, obviously I see people on the daily, but I don't study their faces like I did here. So one moment I was drawing a young girl who may have been, from a native tribe, but then the next moment I was drawing a much older man with like a cowboy hat. So every single person had so much character. It was awesome. So they just all had a story to tell, and they had clear character to go with themselves. It was incredible. I was deeply inspired by their humanity I saw throughout this entire challenge. And honestly, society often treats uniqueness like it's a flaw. Like if you don't fit into a mold, somehow you're less than. But this challenge completely flipped that perspective for me. Individual differences aren't flaws. They're identity, they're your story, they're part of your story, they're beauty, they're beautiful. So now I want to shift slightly into something more personal and spiritual. What does the Bible have to say about value? What does it have to say about our uniqueness? What does it have to say about our identity? The Bible talks about value, but not exactly in the artistic sense that we've been all talking. It talks about value in terms of identity and worth. So in Psalms 139:14, it says, "We are fearfully and wonderfully made." In Genesis, it says we are created in God's image. In Ephesians, it says we are God's handiwork, his craftsmanship. To me, after drawing 100 different human faces, that idea hit differently for me, as I saw how no two people were the same. Not in bone structure, not in expression, not in presence. God made us each so uniquely, and I think that's so beautiful. And if you're someone listening, wherever you are, I just want to encourage you and leave you with this. You are beautifully and wonderfully made. You have purpose, and your uniqueness is not something to hide. It is so beautiful and valuable. We are often our harshest critics, and maybe you grew up with insecurities. Maybe it's facial or body insecurities. And maybe you just feel like you don't fit in. I grew up and had my own insecurities as well. But the crazy thing is someone is out there seeing our beauty inside and out. Anyway, stepping away from the spiritual side of stuff, this challenge made me appreciate people all the more in general. So now when I go to the store or the gas station or out in public, I just notice people. I wonder about their stories and I just clearly appreciate their differences. So regardless of all of this, I think the bigger question I keep coming back to is, why did I even do this challenge in the first place? Well, I wanted to improve my technical skills. I wanted better expressions. I wanted to understand value. I wanted to create better portraits overall. But if I'm being real with you guys, it was also about proving something to myself. I wanted to know if I could stay consistent with something that felt difficult, that felt really hard. And at the time when I started, it did feel really hard. So it's not exciting every day and it's definitely not easy, but something that required me to show up every day when it didn't feel super inspiring all the time. And I learned something really important through this. We can do hard things, and I forget that sometimes with the convenient times that we live in. Because now when I sit down to draw, I don't feel as intimidated by faces, I don't feel scared of realism, and I trust myself more as an artist. And I think that's honestly one of the biggest gifts this challenge has given me. And I think that leads me into my next question. Why should you consider doing something like this? And you should absolutely do it. You should absolutely attempt it. There is never a better time than now. So just as Nike and Shia LaBeouf said, just do it. Just do it. I think sometimes as artists, we wait to feel ready, we wait to feel inspired, and we wait to feel confident enough. But truthfully, most of the time, growth happens while you feel unsure. And that's exactly what happened to me during this challenge. The growth happened while I was doing the hard part. And I definitely felt unsure during parts of the challenge. There were days I didn't want to draw. There were days I thought, this looks terrible. And there were days I wondered if I was even improving or doing anything worthwhile. But I kept going. By the grace of God, I kept going. I wanted to finish and believe something was changing in my art and within myself, as cheesy as that sounds. And when I look back, I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I did this. Hi, and speaking of changes, it only made sense to show myself here after talking about so many faces. So, hi. My model will still be around, but throughout this challenge, I really learned to appreciate myself and my art, of course. And going back to why you, the viewer, the artiste, or just someone interested in drawing, should try this. Yes, it's challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding. I hope that you'll be able to see throughout the video there was slow, but there was steady progress. Still progress. So here, you can see the last 2 pages of the challenge compared to the first 2. So look, it's still growth. I don't like the first 2, if I'm being honest, all that much. There's a few faces I do like, but the last 2, I am so proud. I am so proud. And now, remember at the beginning when I showed you the illustrations I made before the challenge? Let me show you some of my recent illustrations and portraits. These are some of my newest pieces, and I am so grateful for the challenge because it has helped me so much to make some amazing art that I'm so proud of. So it has helped me so much in my art journey, and I really didn't expect, I don't know, like how much it would help. So I guess that's why I'm recommending it so much to you. And I really hope it inspires you. I hope this video inspired you, and I hope that it helps you and encourages you in some way. So ultimately, will you take on the 100 Heads Challenge? I hope you do. I will see you next time in the next Naobe Art Show video and get you around. So God bless you, and I will see you next time. Bye!